Alright everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video with Fat Phil, and we're going to be looking at signal data today. Continuing on with this video series where we've kind of been discussing how these bottlenecks are going to be approaching and the best way to use your resources, I want to cover signal data today. And I am going to be switching between data and data, so go ahead in the comments and yell at me for that. Signal data is obviously a challenge. It's always been a bottleneck for a lot of us, and I think now it kind of got worse. And it didn't get worse because they made it any harder. What they did is they made it more, they made other aspects of the game with the change in the way the raid currency works. They made these pieces more accessible, which opened up those higher relic levels to be more available to us. And so with that, signal data has become more in the forefront of where your concerns are. So we're going to address kind of how to look at your signal data, adjusting your resources, your farming, your strategies to account for that, and some tips and tricks of just ensuring that you're not overspending or to a certain extent underspending the signal data in your roster. So folks, let's get in here. I'm going to have some Google Sheets that I will be sharing. They will all be linked in the video description down below. So go ahead and let's get ready to talk about some signal data. All right, so obviously the only place we can farm signal data is in here, right? These are your node locations. In the Cantina, 16 energy, this is the only place you can farm it. There's other places we can obtain it. You've got territory battles. You've got some of the assault battles, whether it's Duel of the Fates here with some of the nodes, or you go to the legacy tiers, there's signal data. Even the Nightfall era battle, there's a tier that rewards some signal data. I get it. There's a lot of different places, but your primary source of it comes from the Cantina, right? This is the most popular, most common. This is where we are every day trying to get our signal data. Obviously, with that, it's a bit of a challenge to get as much of it as you need. And one of the resources I want to share with you guys is my spreadsheet here. That is, I call it the, days to 100 signal data. So what this spreadsheet does is it shows, based on the amount of energy you could spend in the Cantina, how many days it will take you to get that 100 signal data of blue, green, and white based on drop rates. So if you think, hey, you know what? I can get 6 blue signal data every time I spend 100 crystals. It's going to take you a little under 4 days. You get 4 per 100 crystals, and it's going to take you almost 6 days to get 100 signal data. So that's kind of the logic that's being applied here, is just giving you a time frame for how long it takes to get to 100 energy, or 100 signal data, sorry. We also have just some of the math down here of explaining the shipment price per piece, how much you need to get with your energy to break even, what the Fat Phil adjusted cost is, and how much you save when you do your refreshes in Cantina. Where I really want to pay attention is with I think triple drops coming up, and just kind of reigniting or reviewing double drops. When double drops are active, you are basically at a net normal, meaning you're getting 2 times the amount of signal data from the Cantina, but you're paying twice as much. So at that point, double drops, you can spend those 200 crystals and feel that you're getting the same return as you would on a regular day. With triple drops, it's actually far different, where during triple drops, you're still doing better than you would in a normal day, because you're spending twice as much crystals but getting 3 times as many rewards. So triple drops are one of those areas where if you have the extra crystals, it is well worth it to farm them there. So I did want to share this with you just to kind of briefly touch on the resource that you can use here to kind of figure out how long it will take you to get the signal data that you will need. In terms of a farming strategy, I can't really say I have one way or the other. And I think what I would argue is that it's going to depend on what you're trying to do. So let's, for example, say that I'm trying to work on my Maz Kanata team to Relic 7. So if I go to Maz and I'm like, hey, I want to get this team to Relic 7. if I didn't have the signal data I need, what I would do is farm enough white signal data to get a character, farm the green, farm the blue, and kind of go one at a time. Instead of going color by color and, okay, get all the stuff I need for this, get all the stuff I need for this, get all the stuff I need for this, I would work on a character at a time, and that way I'm getting some benefit in my account earlier than if I was like, all right, I'm going to farm all the white, then all the green, then all the blue. You're not getting any benefit, and especially with Relic Delta in the game now, any little bit of extra relics you have on a character is going to benefit you. So in terms of trying to, when you're equipping it or farming it and you're starting from a 0 position, think about, okay, let's get one character here, then the next character, then the next character. So I did want to kind of share that logic with you guys because that is a big deal. Now, before we get to the next thing I want to share with you, I do want to talk about where to spend your resources now. As I said, signal data is going to be a far bigger pain in the ass than it has previously because of how they made relics more accessible, so signal data is going to feel more of a burden on you. What I think you need to do is adjust your crystal spend. I'm obviously doing all of my 100 crystal refreshes in the Cantina, but I'm not doing any regular energy, any ship energy, and I'll be honest, I'm not even doing mod energy refreshes right now. The mod one hurts my soul a little bit. It hurts my soul a little bit. But I kind of came to this realization that my mods are in a really good, I'm in a pretty good place with mods. I have so many more 6-dot mods than players at my level. I've got so many good secondaries, and just to kind of drive this point home, I was working through some of my mods and I rolled this one over here, 6% offense, and I couldn't figure out who to put this on. It took me a little bit to figure out, all right, who am I putting this 6% offense mod on? Because it was 13 speed, which isn't super fast, but it's not terrible. I just couldn't figure out who it deserved to go on. And it's kind of embarrassing because it's like this wealth of riches, but that's kind of the state of my account right now. The quality of mod that I need for it to be replaced, for mods to get replaced on people, is so extreme that it might be better for a little bit to just chill out and work on spending those crystals on additional signal data, so that way my account can progress its relic levels further. Because I can tell you, when I'm in Grand Arena, Squad Arena at times, in my guild, I can tell you the one area I am most often behind on is relic levels. And not just, sometimes at the top level I might be okay. Like, here's a really good way to show you this. This is my guildmate Zangster. I compared his and my accounts, and if you look, he's got like 700,000 more GP, but we've got the same number of relic 9s, the same number of relic 8s, same number of relic 7s. I do have more relic 6s, but he's got 51 more relic 5s. So there's a massive shift between he and I, that he's got way more characters at relic 5, and he's just got way more characters at relic levels in general. But you can understand and see the point I'm driving home here, is that even if at the top level I'm maintaining, you can tell down here I just start to get completely battered by accounts like this. And in Grand Arena, the relic 8s and 9s oftentimes are devastating for me. So obviously relic signal data is an area I need to focus on, where like my mods, while he's got more speed, I do have way more 6-dot mods, and if you look at the offense defense percent, we're crushing it. So kind of proving the point that it's okay for me to cut back on mods, because where I'm short is the relics. So where we're going to move over to is another spreadsheet, and kind of just showing some of that same information as this does, but in a little bit of a different light. So over here, we're going to actually move the fat face out of the way so you guys can see this. So fat face is moved. First thing you want to understand is when we value signal data, you will always use store value as the base. There's that, we talked about coming down here, right? You have that fat fill cost. This doesn't apply. This cost right here does not apply once you're doing all of your 3 refreshes. And the reason why that no longer applies when you do those refreshes is because, where am I at? Oh, there we are. Once you do your 3 refreshes, the cost in the Cantina doubles. So you don't want to say, well, I can farm it cheaper in the cantina. Yes, but not infinitely. Only to a certain number of refreshes, and then the cost goes up. And to kind of drive that home with a real world example, think about going to a store that sells milk for $3 a gallon, but you can only buy 3 gallons of milk. Okay, well, if my family only needs 3 gallons of milk, I'm always going to that store and I'm always going to buy the 3 gallons. But what if my family needs 6 gallons of milk? Well, that store then goes from $3 to $6 a gallon. So I don't want to pay $6 a gallon if I can walk across the street to a different store, another location, and pay $4 a gallon or $4.50 a gallon for milk. Yeah, it's more than the $3, but I'm maxing the $3 gallons of milk that I need. So I may as well go to the place where I can get it the next cheapest. And that's kind of the concept with signal data on using store value, because I think a lot of players have struggled with that. It's something Egnards does. It's something I believe. If you're already maxing the cantina, you have to factor that out and look at the next cheapest place to get your signal data, and that is the shipment cost. So that, again, I hope that helps you guys understand that concept. Sorry, I keep minimizing this. So with that in mind, we're going to go to some of the packs that you can use your bonus crystals on. If you're not spending all of your crystals on mods and other resources that you might not need as much of, you want to spend it in Cantina. And this is a shift that I think needs to happen. So I want to switch over back to the game for a second and explain this. With the shift in relic materials, it's changed where you're going to want to be spending, crystals. For example, for the longest time, I was always doing my Duel of the Fates refresh on this final tier to get cheaper Relic 9 materials. Well, that's not going to make sense anymore because I'm going to have way more access to these materials than I did before. What I don't have as much access to is signal data. Now, I'm not going to refresh this tier because there's, the values don't really match up. But you get the idea that I'm going to try to, instead of spending 1,000 crystals here, I'd rather bank that 1,000 crystals and spend it on signal data. So that's kind of the logic we're going to be applying. So we're going to go to some of these packs that make a lot of sense to be purchasing. So the first one here is, is these daily deals. And these are actually in my store yesterday. And if we flip over to the game here, they're also in my store today. I just don't have the crystals to be able to purchase them. Some of these packs can be very, very valuable. Some of them maybe not as much as others. But if we go back here, so this Erodium tier pack, just as, again, you'll have to do this math on your own because you probably won't always get the same packs, but you get the idea. So this pack costs 3,200 crystals. So the shipment value is 4,800. And that is 150 of it coming from the white signal data at 15 crystals per piece. We're getting 150 of the green signal data, which comes out to 20 crystals per piece. Right? So that's 3,000 cost in the store. And then 55 of the blue signal data is 1,650 crystals. So in this pack, you're spending 3,200. You're getting a shipment value of 4,800 crystals. That is a 50% value increase to your crystals. That is an awesome return. The Chromium pack, while still very solid, 3,750. And then the Bronzium is 25%. All of those are, solid. Again, you kind of have to ask yourself the question, like for me, the white signal data definitely isn't quite as valuable as it used to be. I'm still using store value. There can be some conversations on adjusting that. But even to an extent, the way you can look at it is 70 of that signal data is 70 less that you have to go farm. So at the end of the day, win-win situation. Personally, I would look at the packs like this where you're getting that about 50% if you can save your bonus crystals for stuff like this. That 50% increase is a really good number to look for. Now, scrolling down a bit, we have Egnard's little graphic here. The Signal Data Cash Pack. He's gone ahead and he's done the math on this pack already to analyzing every single potential situation that you could get signal, that you could get out of here. So this pack, while not available right now, you can get additional signal data. You can get carbonate circuit boards and bronzium wiring, all these other places. the base value increase for this pack is 8%. So comparative to these things up here, it's a much lower percentage increase. But that 8% is literally just taking the 25 of each color of signal data you're getting by the store value. You're getting an 8% increase. You can potentially, I think this is his average. On average, it's about an 80% increase in value based on all the other materials that you can get. Personally, when I look at this pack, what I really like is you have a 40% chance to get 10 of each extra signal data. And just to kind of do a little bit of that extra math here, if you get 10 extra white signal data, that's 150 store value. You get 10 extra green, that's 200, and 10 extra blue is 300. So now that's an additional 650 crystals. So if you do the base value of 1625, which again is down here, and then you add in this, you get a 2275 base value out of a cost of $14.99, right? Which is, if we do this minus this, and then let's put some brackets around this just to be safe, and divide by this. There, we're getting roughly a 50% increase in value. Again, 51%. So that 50% threshold is something that we kind of like to look at and say, hey, this is why we talk about those, is because some of these other packs, that's where the math shakes out to. Again, shout out Egnards for this graphic. If you want to see this in a lot more detail, you got to go to his Buy Me a Beer, and then you've also got to make sure that you told him Fat Phil sent you, and then tell him to go fuck himself. Okay? That is standardized whenever we talk about Egnards on this channel, right? We tell him to go fuck himself. So now let's keep going here to the next packet, which is the Stellar Signal Data Countdown. Again, math provided by the guy that we all hate and terrible content creator. Again, this one, 50% increase on this 14-day calendar. It's 3,000 crystals, a total crystal value of 4,500. Using, accounting logic, which people will hate here, but as an accountant, this one, in my personal opinion, not quite as valuable as some of your daily deals, simply because you have to wait 14 days to get all of the materials from here. So this one is a little bit more of a slow burn, but highly valuable. Listen, it's still worth it, okay? I'm not going to pretend it's still not worth it, but it does take the 14 days to get that, where if you presented me with this pack, or you presented me with a, daily deal that had the same return rate with the same amount of signal data from each of these, I'd take the daily deal just because it's in my account that day. So there's, some of that logic, but still that 50%, is really, really nice. Thank you, Egnards. Go fuck yourself. Finally, the screenshot is down here. I got very excited. So they added signal data into the store. And, I was like, oh yeah, I can't wait to talk about signal data and it going to the episode shipments. And then I went and bought it and forgot to take screenshots of how much it cost. So Egg was gracious enough to take screenshots of that for me. So each of those is worth the same amount of episode cost. When you look at the conversion rate, it is 4,500 episode points for 45 signal data of the fragmented, and of the incomplete, it's 5,400 episode shipment points for 54 incomplete signal data. So both are at 100 episode shipment currency. Green is the better value here, but I'm buying both. I will get signal data wherever I can, however I can get it, and I think this is a great way to do that. Look, this is a weekly purchase. That's really, really solid. You figure 45 signal data of the white, that's fragmented. That's fragmented. That's roughly about a day of farming. Incomplete, that's probably, a little bit. This is probably about a day and a half of farming. So you're saving think about increasing your signal data approach. You're getting a significant amount of time savings by purchasing this. And I think that's a very good value. especially with the shift in Relic Delta, where you're going to want to have as much signal data and available resources to make those shifts in the game. So to kind of go back to the game and just kind of touch on a few things to kind of wrap this up. Signal data is going to be a problem, right? It's about how you're going to manage it, understanding all the locations, balancing where you're spending bonus crystals to react. For a lot of you, we were spending bonus crystals on the, these relic amplifier packs and on, refreshing the Duel of the Fates and Peridia Patrol, Coven of Shadows, where I think now those resources are going to be better spent looking for packs that have signal data in them for crystals to further you along there. Finding that balance will be extremely, extremely important for your long-term success in Galaxy of Heroes. The final thing I will say, right, the final thing as we move the fat face back over here, just be mindful to not try to keep up with the Joneses. Just compare to your own account. Don't worry about everybody else's doing. And if you are someone, if you are someone who spends money, always look for good deals, always look for things that could benefit you. I want to end this video kind of on a, all right, Phil's going crazy. Listen, we've talked a lot about just how awesome this update has been, the additional resources that we've gotten, and I've got to give a special shout here to Johnny Boy, right? Shout out Johnny. He gifted me the Clone Wars Chewbacca Relic 9. So he gifted me that Relic 9 deal here. So shout out Johnny Boy for that. That was, way too kind. And he's getting his shout there because I was at this point, I was doing math where I didn't have quite enough Relic 9s for Ahsoka to be used on Vandor and TB. And then Johnny did that, and I was like, all right, well, now I'm only one away. So I want to do another Relic 9 here to kind of end the video, and we're going to choose Darth Bane. Now, this is kind of a double whammy. One, we have this amazing Datacron for Darth Vader, that Darth Vader, if there's no GL allies, he can't be defeated until all other allies are defeated. Whenever they are defeated, he dispels debuffs on himself, resets his cooldowns, takes a bonus turn. During his turn, Darth Vader has extra health steal for each defeated ally. Obviously, with Bane, we're just hoping that, obviously with Darth Bane, we're just kind of hoping that this, we don't ever lose Bane, so that way Vader never needs this clause. But I want to make sure that my Darth Bane is hitting as hard as humanly possible. And with Delta, again, I don't want to be losing fights with Darth Bane because he's not high enough. So Darth Bane is probably going to be our last Relic 9 for a little bit because, just kind of sharing with you guys where we are in terms of resources. We've taken quite the hit. I had quite the stockpile built up. And while for some of you, you're going to say, Phil, you have so many. Again, a whole nother video topic, but just to kind of briefly highlight it. We've got a lot of era units coming that we're going to have to put to relics. We've got the Stranger we're going to have to put to relics, and they're going to kind of happen all in that same time. So I do want to make sure that I am bearing that in mind and not spending too much. But Relic 9 Darth Bane incoming. Let's get into it. Oh, they don't even give you the warning message anymore. That's painful. Oh, man. So there, Darth Bane, Relic 9, GL Bane. There we go. Guys, I really appreciate all of you. I, cannot thank you enough for all that this channel has done. Again, these spreadsheets we shared, they are linked in the video description down below. Make sure you check them out. I love you all. May the Force be with you, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers, my friends.